Hey friends, welcome back to the Uplifters podcast, where we explore the transformative journeys of women who've had the courage to reinvent themselves. I'm your host, Aransas Savas, and today I'm joined by Shannon Russell. She's a former television executive who left her very successful career in TV production to become an entrepreneur and a coach. Shannon is going to share with you her powerful story of when she really hit her breaking point and how that moment led her to completely reimagine her life. Shannon's going to share the practical steps that she took to navigate this career transition and the mindset shifts that enabled her to be successful as she reinvented herself. We're going to discuss the importance of identifying what your non-negotiables are, the value of doing some strategic research to learn what works for you, and why it's so important to trust yourself when facing life's biggest decisions. So whether you're considering a career change, building something on the side, or just curious about how others have successfully navigated major life transitions, Shannon's story's got something for all of you. Let's get into it.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. I love your podcast. I love your work. And most of all, I love the way you're approaching this work with so much curiosity and so much openness to learning and discovery. So your journey has taken you from television executive to business owner and coach. That's a big shift. What was the pivotal moment that gave you the courage to leave this established, successful career? And then what internal resources were you drawing on during that transition?
I think it was just hitting that rock bottom point. I had a 3-year-old at home, 8 months pregnant, running through the Times Square subway station, trying to catch the bus to get back to the suburbs to pick up at daycare. And I had just told my team that I would not stay late to interview Taylor Swift. So they needed to do it without me because I just couldn't miss bedtime one more time. I missed the first birthday, missed Halloween. It was all of these things. And then I think the emotions and hormones of being 8 months pregnant, I just said something has to give. And I think I need to figure out what else I can do because I don't want to keep missing out more with the new one on the way.
I so admire you being able to see that breaking point. I pushed through a very similar breaking point. So I was working a corporate role and I had 2 small children at home. And with my first, I literally made myself crazy. My daughter was at school in Chelsea. We lived in Brooklyn, and I would take the subway with my newborn strapped to my chest, nurse her at drop off, jog to the office, work for a few hours, pump a couple of times in this cramped little room. And then at lunchtime, jog back to the daycare, nurse her again, not feed myself, jog back to I was completely depleting and frying myself. And I just sort of pressured through probably very poorly. And I think honestly, very much to the detriment of myself, my career, my child. And if there's anything in life that I regret, it's probably that period of powering through the breaking point. So I'm really impressed that you had the courage to say, I can change instead of just, I'm going to do what so many women do, which is I'm going to just my way through.
I think I had powered through those first 3 years of my oldest. So I know that feeling of just saying, I'm okay. I can do it all. Don't take it away from me. I can have the job. I can do this. I can do it all. Superwoman. And I think I just realized, what am I doing this for if I'm missing everything? I felt like I was missing with that long commute. It just didn't fit. My husband's a producer as well. And I just felt like, well, something's got to give. It's always the woman who gives. And and I just, that was the moment that I was like, well, let me see what else I can do. I had no idea what else I could possibly do and how my skills and experience would transfer.
Did you just take the leap with no plan?
Well, It was like going for a while, like those wheels were turning. And then I could tell you where I was a few months into my maternity leave. I was walking through the mall because it was winter, pushing the newborn, and I got a call that my show was canceled. And in that moment, I took it as like the big universe sign that no, this is it. I'm not going to pick up the phone and get that next gig. I'm going to figure it out. Like this is the moment, or else I would have just kept doing it over and over again, one project to the next. That's, what we did in TV. But instead I was like, okay, this is my chance to produce my own life. Like, what can I do? And that's where I just started trying to figure it out. And it wasn't easy.
Wow. And so were you scared?
I was scared, but I think at the time I was scared of what it would look like if I couldn't succeed doing something else. Because as much as I loved TV, it was my dream job since I was 5. It was everything I wanted to do. It just didn't align anymore with where I was. I wanted to be a present mom because that was another dream job of mine, was being a mom. So I think I feared not being able to bring income into the family and contributing and having to go back to those hours and missing the kids and having to get the au pair and nanny and all that. And so I was like, no, other people can do it, but that's not what I want. So let me see if I can figure this out. But I went down a lot of missteps, I say, like different paths and hitting a wall and going, that doesn't feel right. Let me try this. That doesn't feel right. Let me try this for probably about a year until I finally was like, no, I'm going to open my own business. I'm going to get into entrepreneurship so I can truly control the narrative.
For so many of us, we're worried about what we don't know in those moments that we miss what we do know. So what did you feel like prepared you for that?
I think it was that figuring out what wasn't working. I got the 9-to-5 job close to home in an office. Like, okay, this is what I should be doing, society says. That was toxic and awful and not going to be long-term.
Yeah.
I started going for a master's degree. I thought, well, let me get a master's in education. I'll be a teacher. That's really stable. And I was trying to grasp at these straws of what I felt like society wanted me to do, or what I felt like I could do so that I didn't have to go back to that high-paced hustle and bustle. But then during those times, there was a lot of lows where I would listen to podcasts in my car over my lunch break, tears, trying to just figure it out. And I started listening to podcasts like Marie Forleo and Jenna Kutcher and these women who had made pivots and had successful online businesses. And I was like, there's something to this. And I started just thinking like, gosh, I have produced huge celebrities, big budgets for all of these different studios. Like, why can't I just produce a business of my own? And that's where I think the mindset shift started going. And I started looking at it like, I can celebrate everything I've done, but now I want to see what else I can do. And I used it as more of like a challenge. And that made it more fun of like, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to I don't really care what anyone else says. This feels right. I did my research and then I just leapt after I researched and said, it's got to work. I'm going to hustle.
I love that so much. And I love what you said about this feels right. Can you describe what signals indicated for you that this was a viable path, a possible path, and even something that just energized you and made you want to figure it out?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to turn inward. And I had realized in those lunches in my car for that lunch break that I never turn inward since I became a mom. Even probably before that, never took that pause to say, am I happy? Am I on the right path? Does this feel right? Mm-hmm. And so I started to have those conversations with myself and I realized, okay, I want to be in charge of my future. And so when I started looking at businesses that would fit into my future, I started looking at the non-negotiables. Like, I want to be able to be present with the kids. I want to be a class parent if I choose. I want to pick up at 3:00 if I choose. These are my non-negotiables. So when I started looking at businesses, I had an idea for a STEM education business for kids. And as I started researching, like, what would that look like? I found a franchise. And as someone who never owned a business before, that was like a business in a box to me. As I researched, had calls with this company, talked to other business owners, I said, this feels like something I can do. It's taking this idea, using my marketing skills, my communication, talking to other people, getting out there helping people in the community is what I wanted to be able to do too. So all of that just seemed like that fit with who that person was I was having that conversation with when I checked in with myself.
That's so cool. And this idea of starting with the non-negotiables, I think is so translatable and so important to folks because it is so easy to get trapped in analysis paralysis and have all the desire, but none of the action because we're like, where do I begin? And I think I think that's such an easy, clear starting point to say, what do I have to have? And to start to force prioritize those even.
Yes. And I think it's also, what do you not want? Right? Because if you're looking at that, it's also easy to have that shiny object syndrome. So if you're really feeling stuck and unhappy and you get an opportunity for something else, you might leap towards that and then find out that you didn't do your research. And now you're in the same place you were, just in a new role, and you're equally as miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of use your non-negotiables as that kind of tool to look at, that ruler of like, okay, is this going to really help me get to this? Or is it not? So it's a nice little way of looking at things.
Well, I think going back to what you said before, it's kind of challenging the non-negotiables because we can, as you said you did, allow society to inform on non-negotiables. And so to look at them again and say like, okay, is this true for me? Or is this about what other people think or other people value and need? Or is this really, really what I want for now? And what a powerful muscle to build for all of life. Like this is just a forcing function to build our own value sets and to live in like greater truth and joy. So how has your definition of purpose and success evolved throughout your different career phases?
Well, that's a great question. I think, opening that first franchise business of mine, I found purpose because it grew quickly. Within the first 2 years, I was in the top 3 to 5 of all of the franchises in that organization.
Wow.
And it felt good. I felt like, okay, all that hard work, that scariness, I was able to make it happen. And then it like lit a fire under me where I was like, okay, I want to do this again. And I felt like I was giving back, teaching children and helping families. And so it was really great. But then a couple of years later, I opened my coaching business because I found the need that other women like us were sitting here going, I don't think this works anymore. And I've got to figure out what else I can do. And so I started coaching, and then my priorities shifted. And I said, you know what? I love working with families and kids, but I think my real purpose is helping other women like me because I made so many missteps on my road to figuring out what I wanted to do. And I want to save other people by being that accountability, helping them. So that's where my purpose really lies now.
It's interesting that you decided to stop doing one thing to do another thing. What went into that decision?
Well, I did them both for maybe 4 years or so. And it was a lot. I had a huge team running the franchise, but I was so close to it that everyone pulled me back in all the time. And then my coaching took off a little faster than I thought. I thought that would be like my little side hustle, but there was such demand for it and I loved it. So I figured, let me try to sell the franchise business while it's at the top and doing great. And so that's what I did. It took about a year and I found buyers and now someone else is raising my baby, but I was able to sell it successfully and make a profit from it. And that just made me again think like, okay, this is for the greater good. And now I can focus just on my clients and my coaching and getting my mission out there to help others.
I love your answer because I think we get so attached to other people's perceptions of our decisions that we can become very afraid of stopping something and see that sort of as a sign of personal failure. It's like this very American virtue, like you must keep going. And I think so much of your story comes back to this idea of, no, you don't have to keep going. You can stop.
And that's what I learned leaving television because, television is all in who you know. It's your name. It's who are you working with? It's very showy in that sense. And I did feel like, oh my gosh, who am I afterwards? But I, for whatever reason, just felt like, nope, I'm going to figure it out. And celebrate it. And I always say I'm still a television producer. If you called me tomorrow and gave me an opportunity, maybe I jump back and do it. But it never leaves you. And I think that is what can help some people when they're thinking about transitioning to something new, that is still a part of them. You're just adding on to your lifelong resume, if you will, right? You're giving yourself another title, and we've got many titles and many hats. So yeah, I think it just is something that's always going to happen. And then leaving that first business and starting another one. And then to have the people that you worried were going to have an opinion about why you were reinventing yourself, who come and say, you helped me do that. Because that's what happened, and why I got into my coaching is people said, how did you go from that to this? Can you help me? So it's really organic. And you realize that people aren't out to get us and to naysay all the time. They really want to support, but sometimes they want to see someone else do it first. And then they're like, okay, cool. I want to try now too.
Yeah. If Shannon can do it, maybe I can too.
Exactly.
You talk a lot about research. In my work, I talk a lot about experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like through your early phases of your own career transition, you were really focused on practical research, applied research. How has your perspective on how to do research shifted with a little bit of hindsight?
That's a great question too. I think it's still research, because I think research equals confidence, but it's more about, yeah, you can research online, but you can have conversations. Like, I love going on LinkedIn and connecting with people. You can go on LinkedIn and find someone you know, or a friend of a friend who's doing what you're thinking about transitioning into, and just have a phone call or shoot them a message. And oftentimes people just want to help because they think it's cool that you're asking their advice about what it is they do. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. You feel like you're putting some good karma out into the world. So I think that kind of research is great. And also going back to the non-negotiables, and of course, going back to the skills and the experience that you bring to the table. Because a lot of times, if we're thinking about leaving one act for another, you're looking at your list of skills and you're saying, well, that's not really special. Everyone does it. But that's because you're so in it, and you're probably surrounded by people who do similar work. But when you look at it and you say, what is it that I want to take from this list, and what don't I want to take? And then you look at this next role that you're pondering, and you can kind of connect the dots and say, this is why I'd be great at this because of this. And you create what I call career story, so that when you're saying, I'm opening this business and I'm the best person to open this business because this is what I've done for the last 15 years. And it just brings it all together.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's a very empowering approach. And certainly we get a great model of it in the way you integrate production into your work now, because it does say, hey, I'm not diminishing the last 10, 20, 30 years. I'm using it in new ways that are a better fit for who I am and what I need right now.
Yeah. And that's okay, right? We evolve.
It's amazing.
And we change. So we're not the same people we were at 20 when we chose what we wanted to do. So yeah, always ever changing.
It transforms it from a mistake to a stepping stone. It's very cool. As someone who's coaching women through major life transitions all day, every day, what have you observed are some of the most common mental barriers that hold them back from making changes? And then how do you help them overcome those obstacles?
The one that I get the most, which is sad, but a lot of times women will say, who am I to make a change? Like, doesn't everyone hate their job? Shouldn't I just suck it up? And it comes up time and time again. And it's me saying, well, who are you to not and wake up 20 years from now and regret this time? And we're not given the time. Life is short. And why wait and put off? Wouldn't you rather dabble, open something as a side hustle, just, open an Etsy shop, whatever it is, try. And if you don't like it, then you're no worse off. You can go back to where you were. But yeah, it's that idea of like, well, I get, it's too hard. I'll just suck it up and I'll be the martyr. And you don't have to be.
Yeah. As you said that, it occurred to me too, that I think we mix our measures of success. Sometimes we probably should think long and hard about investing $100,000 in creating a franchise, right? Like something that can be financially life-changing and, can be a major risk. Yeah, that should get some big consideration before we do it.
Yeah.
And I think so often what happens is that we're like, okay, so I'll just dip my toe in. And then if I'm not massively successful by dipping my toe in, it's a failure. But the question isn't, is it successful with the exploration, but rather, how do I feel in that type of role? How do I feel in that kind of space or community? And letting that be the measure of whether we want to put more of our whole self into it beyond the toe dip.
You're so right. Yeah. And it's saying, especially now with so many layoffs happening, you want to have something that you're in control of and that brings you peace, that doesn't bring you more stress when you wake up and think about your work day. And maybe it takes a little bit longer to build that business, but maybe you're feeling mentally well while doing it and you're feeling better. And I also think with business, you have more control. You have ways of bringing in extra streams of revenue, whether it's starting a podcast, writing a book, whatever it might be. You can add on, you can see what feels good and you can test it out, but it's not going to happen if you don't take that step forward. So it's just thinking about how you want to feel every day, because it's kind of scary to think about staying in that stuck position.
Yeah. You talk about the woman who said, nobody loves their job, so I'll just suck it up. And for me, it was kind of a different thing in that I liked my job. There were things I really enjoyed about it. And it was really hard for me to believe that maybe the grass could be even greener. And so that actually is where I got really stuck for a long time. I was like, should I stay or should I go now? And I just kept saying to myself, because I'm an optimist, well, this is pretty good. How can I possibly believe that anything could be better than this? And like, is that greedy to want even more? And ultimately, like just at the point where I said I was going to quit, I got laid off. The universe had my back on that one.
Yes.
And nudged the bird out of the nest just
perfect.
when I needed it. And I was really ready. It was just, I was scared. So how do you help women believe in the future that is unknown?
It's about feeling worthy and looking at their skills. I'm certified in UMAP, which is a career assessment tool. And that helps a lot of my clients because it pulls out your strengths, your values, your personality, your experience. And then you're looking at this list and you're saying, wow, I can actually do a lot. I've accomplished a lot. And then to start to say, okay, well, knowing this, what are you thinking? What are you dreaming about? What are those voices in your head whispering, but you're ignoring? What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were little? If we had a magic wand and we could wave it. And then we start looking at that and say, well, how realistic is that with your non-negotiables? Sometimes I'll have clients who come to me with a bunch of ideas. And then we start going through the research phase and kind of looking at everything. And they say, oh no, that's not what I want to do. And we're able to cross those off the list and narrow down to what feels right in all of those areas. And I think while doing that research, they're realizing that they are worthy. And that's where the confidence comes out, because you want to be confident so that you can tell other people what your next move is. Mm-hmm. And I have had some clients who don't want to tell their partners because they're afraid their partners won't be supportive, or their parents or their best friend. And so I say, keep it close to your chest. Let's go through all of these exercises. And then when you feel confident, then it doesn't matter so much what other people say. And you can say, hey, I'm going to do this. These are the reasons why, and watch me go. And that's where your confidence is. But it's all about getting over that. Who am I? Realizing you are worthy to make that change.
Yeah. I think it's really about evaluating our risk tolerance and what the actual real risks are as opposed to the perceived risks.
Yes, but it's also being realistic, because I'm realistic as well, like looking at your financials, which none of us want to do, but saying, okay, if I'm thinking about leaving, but I have a paycheck coming in, what can I do to maybe build this business or work on this second act while I'm getting a paycheck? So maybe it's, okay, it's going to be another 6 months that you're working, but in that 6 months, you're going to build your website. You're going to register your business. You're going to start your socials. You're going to do all of these things so you feel like you're moving while you're earning that money. So yeah, we dive into that too, because you want to have a very strategic exit plan, giving yourself that runway to really be successful and not just up and quit and then feeling scared. And Some people don't have the luxury like you and I with my job, my show getting canceled and you getting let go. But we had to just figure it out.
I love that you label that as a luxury.
Well,
And it was.
It
You're
was
so
because it
right.
forced our hand.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people I think are waiting for that. You can say, okay, well, if I start thinking about what would I do if my perfect job let me go? Okay, have that backup plan because nothing, being a doctor, whatever you think are stable jobs are just not as stable anymore.
I think too, it is admitting to ourselves that we want more.
Yeah, and that we're not selfish for wanting more. I think a lot of women, especially moms, consider that a selfish want. But there's ways of doing it where you're not leaving your family in chaos and causing disruption. There's really strategic ways so that you're still giving that devotion to your family, but you're also working on yourself at the same time.
Well, and you talk about while you're working at that other job, starting to build the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's scary to people too, right? Like they're so overwhelmed with maybe work and motherhood and taking care of their parents, right? Like there's so many things that we can be taking care of already. And the thought of adding one more thing in just feels super overwhelming. And so I think what I hear you saying is just do tiny things and doesn't have to take up your entire life. You don't have to give up your entire weekend or all your sleep to do it.
Right. It's just making that roadmap, which we try to make to get you from where you are to where you want to be. And I often say it can be your lunch break. It can be when the kids go to sleep. It can be the 15 to 30 minutes when we just doom scroll on our phones in the morning over coffee, like where you just say, okay, I'm going to put it in my calendar that I'm going to update my LinkedIn, or I'm going to work on that website, or I'm going to research these couple options. It can just be a little bit here and there once or twice a week.
You just gave me such a good idea. You can tell in your phone the amount of time you spend on a given app, and like to look at the amount of time you spend on socials and say, what if I invested that in my next chapter? So let's say you're spending 30 minutes a day doom scrolling for relaxation. Well, what if you invested that in something that provides more energy instead of decreasing and depleting your energy? I love the idea of like going and capturing that data as the input, that more time exists and that specific blocks of time have actually already been built and can be repurposed.
Oh, I got chills when you said that because it's scary, right? We don't want to know. I don't want to know how long I've been on a certain app, but
I know.
But like you said, that's like time that we have, and you can just, I love that you said redistribute that time.
Need certainly sometimes those really tangible actions that I can take. And certainly from a behavior change perspective, replacing something is a lot easier than trying to just cram one more thing in.
Very true.
Ambiguously.
Yes.
Really never works.
No, but it is. It's like there's these little pockets in our day, and it can even be listening to a podcast like yours and listening to it while you're doing dishes, but you're educating yourself by listening. There's little things we can do. I feel like I'm always listening to something or someone in the car, trying to multitask, but it's getting into your head and getting into your brain in some way.
I love that point. Maybe we should just make a list of all the little things we could do to invest in ourselves for that. I'm making it up, our 30-minute social replacement time.
Yeah.
And to say like, what would I do with those 30 minutes? But to have a ready list so that when the time comes, we don't automatically default return to doom scrolling. Yeah. Because what we've used that time for was always doom scrolling. So if we don't have an actual specific replacement for it, we're just going to do what we've always done.
You're so right. Yeah. And I wrote a book that's coming out soon. And in the book, at the end of each chapter, there's actionable steps and questions to ask yourself. So I wrote it in a sense that it can be that quick toolkit that you can pull out and just read a chapter, and then you have some stuff to work on. So that can be something that you can do in those little pockets. It's just that self-reflection, but yet you're planning at the same time and hopefully getting yourself inspired.
I love too that you've created this book to allow people to self-guide through this journey based on all of your learning and experience and all the work that you've done personally, but with your clients. It just makes it so accessible. And it's a really big deal to be able to translate your collective knowledge into more impact.
To reach more people is really what I wanted, because not everyone's going to work one-on-one with me or take my courses, but they can grab this book on Amazon or wherever they see it and then just know that they can read it at their own pace. And maybe one little gem will pop out that will make them say, okay, I am worthy. Let me take these baby steps to see what happens. So yeah, hopefully to reach a few more people that way.
So good. So good. So now looking back, when did you leave your role as TV producer?
2016.
Wow. You're like almost a decade into this.
That's kind of crazy.
Go you. So looking back at your journey from TV producer to entrepreneur to coach, what would you tell the version of yourself who was standing at the edge of that leap, but afraid of wanting change?
To give yourself grace and then follow your heart. Like try it because you can always go back. And so there's no harm in trying, but you don't want to regret this time and not to see what else you can do. And it all works out better than you could have expected.
Yeah. And there will be mistakes and that's okay.
I never would have expected that I would have owned 2 businesses and be speaking on stages and write a book and like all of this stuff almost 10 years ago. Never, never, never. So it's kind of cool to take that leap and then to just ride the wave and see where it leads you and see where you feel good.
Yeah, it does build more confidence to hear other people's stories. And the whole idea of this podcast is to help ourselves believe that change is possible through seeing it in others. For the folks who want to connect with you and read the book and do the exercises, where should they go?
They can go to startyoursecond.com. Everything's there.
Awesome. As uplifters, we love to lift other people. So how can we as a community best help you with your goals right now?
I think that's such a great question. Just checking out the website, maybe sharing it with someone you think needs a little inspiration and guidance on this next act of theirs. That would be wonderful. I would really appreciate it.
I can't wait to read the book when it releases. We're all in transition all the time. And so I know I'll learn a lot and benefit from practicing those exercises as well. Great to meet you. I'm so glad to be connected.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Uplifters podcast. If you're getting a boost from these episodes, please share them with the uplifters in your life and then join us in conversation over at theuplifterspodcast.com. Head over to Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast and like, follow, and rate our show. It'll really help us connect with more uplifters and it'll ensure you never miss one of these beautiful stories. Mwah! Big love.
Painted water sunshine with rosemary and thyme. Dwell in the perplexing, though you find it vexing. Toss a star and hover, be your own best lover. Relish in a new prime, plant a tree in springtime. Dance with idle hindsight, bring the sun to twilight. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up, whoa. Lift you up.
Beautiful.
I cried. It's that little thing you did with your voice.
Right? In the pre-chorus, right?
I was like...
Mommy,
I had to cry quietly.
Mommy, stop crying. You're disturbing the peace.